It's Twitter Thursday on today's LockedOn Giants podcast. We're answering your questions. And for those of you who watch us on YouTube, we're unveiling a new graphic package, which we hope you like. That's coming up next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, New York Giant fans, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast family, your team every day. My name is Patricia Traina. Happy to have you with us. It is a Twitter Thursday. We are answering your questions, as always, and as I mentioned in the intro, we have a new graphical package, which I hope you like. I found these graphics, and I think they really add a little punch to the YouTube production, so I hope you will like them. And as always, folks, thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day, or if you are watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. Please make sure you like and subscribe our channel on YouTube, or if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, we would greatly appreciate a 5-star review and any feedback you have to offer on the Locked On Giants podcast. All right, so we've got a lot to get through today. We've got about 5 or 6 questions came in from Twitter, and then the rest came in via email. So going to go through all of these. Let's get right to it. And we're going to kick it off with our Twitter questions, starting with one from @HighwayStarP. And they ask, if they cannot trade Bradberry, do you think they will extend him or release him? All right, thanks for that question to kick things off. I think if the Giants cannot get trade James Bradberry, and look, they could probably, if they wanted to, just settle for the best offer available. But Joe Schoen is being patient, and if they don't get the right offer, I could see them potentially extending him. And I've talked about this on Giants Country. I've laid out some scenarios how I think it would work. And you know what? There might even be a benefit to even extending him, depending on how it's done. And that, if they add some dummy years, or what we call voidable years, the acquiring team can ultimately pick those years up and turn them into actual years. So, for example, let's say they put a voidable year in there with a salary of, I don't know, $1 million. The acquiring team could pick it up. Now, what the Giants have been doing is when they put a voidable year into the contracts, there is no base salary listed. So it's just a pure voidable year. But I've seen instances where teams do put an amount in the P5 or base salary, and it just, I don't know, kind of makes it more attractive when you're trying to trade a player, because you're going to be hit with the dead money on the prorated signing bonus anyway if you're the Giants. So why not make it attractive for an acquiring team so that they don't have to worry about going back and extending him and whatnot, and incurring a new signing bonus. So there's a way to do it if the Giants wanted to. I do not think they will necessarily cut him, because if they do, he will get picked up in a hurry, and the Giants really won't have anything to show for it. And I just don't think that would be smart on their part. So thank you for that question. Okay, the next question is from Slim Drew 82. Well, Kayvon is the better prospect, considering Wink's defense is not a man. Corner like Sauce Gardner is more important for our I think what you're asking me, Drew, is Sauce Gardner the smarter choice to make as opposed to Kayvon Thibodeau? Here's the problem. We are assuming that Wink Martindale is going to run the same defense that he ran in Baltimore. I think he will run a lot of the same concepts. That being said, I also think that the defense is going to be tailored to what the Giants have and what they don't have. So if I'm the Giants, look, I like Sauce Gardner. I would love to see them pick him up. I don't know necessarily that he's going to be the guy at 7. If I had to take a guess, and I haven't run a simulation lately, I am going to run a simulation for a mock draft. But if the Giants can come away with an offensive tackle and a pass rusher like Kayvon Thibodeaux, I'd take that. And a cornerback, I think they could probably get in the second round. So, a lot of what ifs, that's what makes the draft so cool, is you can go in so many different directions. And on this one, I don't have a feel for it. I mean, the only thing I have a feel for that I can sit here and say that I'd be willing to put down money on is that they will take an offensive tackle in the first round, whether it be at pick 5 or pick 7. I think we can all agree on that. If I had to guess which one they're going to take, I think it might be Evan Neal, although, again, I would be happy with any of them. But if they have a chance at Kayvon Thibodeaux, I think you've got to pick him up, especially after you pass on Micah Parsons last year, a difference maker. Kayvon Thibodeaux, if he can give you 8 to 10 sacks as a rookie, you take him. If he develops into a Batman for you, you don't pass that up. Just my 2 cents for what it's worth. So thank you for that question. All right, next Twitter question comes from Spider733. How many years are we going to skip out on a pass rusher because we can scheme a pass rush and then fail to do so? Okay, Spider, I get what you're saying. You want a Batman pass rusher. You want like another Michael Strahan or a Justin Tuck or an O.C. Ubanura, or if we're going outside of the Giants, you want a Von Miller or Khalil Mack. You want somebody who can get home to the quarterback, somebody who's going to have to be double teamed. I get that. I totally get that. Look, this year's class is so deep in pass rushers. I would be shocked if the Giants don't come up with a guy who could potentially be a Batman. So I think your long wait, Spider, is over this year. I really believe the Giants are going to come out of this draft with a guy who could potentially be a Batman. And look, let's not forget that they have Azeez Ojulari, who showed a lot of promise last year. We still don't know, what Ellerson Smith can bring to the table. Can he maybe develop into a situational pass rusher that they can lean on frequently? They've got Carter Coughlin coming back. They've got Quincy Roche coming back. So they have pass rushers. It's just a matter of, do they have a Batman? Not yet. At least not, we haven't seen a Batman develop. And I forgot to mention also O'Shane Zimenez, who is still on the roster, by the way. Interestingly, they did not cut him. So we'll see what happens with him. But the point being is they have some guys. And, if you listened to the show yesterday, Eric Crocker, who I had on from the LockedOn NFL Draft podcast, spoke about the different ways that a defensive coordinator can scheme a pass rush. So if you didn't check that out, I recommend you go back and listen to that pod. But I think this year they're going to get themselves a Batman pass rusher. I really do. All right, Giant fans, we have more coming up on today's Locked On Giants podcast, a Twitter Thursday. But first, there's only one place that's the best information source for the latest odds, contests, and player props for all your sports betting needs, and that is betonline.net. From basketball to baseball, hockey, UFC, boxing, the upcoming Triple Crown, you name it, and betonline.net has you covered. It is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite casino games. Head on over to betonline.net today and learn more about the trends and the action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. We have a Twitter Thursday going on today. Thank you, everybody, for the questions. Thank you also for being patient. We had to move Twitter Tuesday to Thursday, but never fear. I'm always going to get your questions into a show, and I appreciate all the questions that have come in. And I hope those of you who are watching on YouTube, you're enjoying the new graphics. I thought they were pretty cool, and I'm just trying them out. So as always, feel free to send me your feedback. All right, let's get back to the Twitter questions. We're going to kick this segment off with a Twitter question from Empire PR Man, who writes, who are the teams that the Giants could trade down with in the draft, and in your opinion, where they wouldn't drop down too far. All right, interesting question here. Let me pull up Tankathon, which has the draft order. All right, so I wouldn't trade pick number 5. Let me make that clear. I mean, if I'm going to trade any pick, I would trade pick number 7. So who could they trade with? You might make a case for Atlanta, but Atlanta picks 8th. And if they're going to trade with Atlanta, then I would think they would probably want to trade pick number 5, which, again, I don't think I would want to do. Seattle is a possibility. Is Seattle sold on Drew Lock as their quarterback? I could see them maybe moving up to number 7 to get ahead of Atlanta, who I think is going to explore getting a quarterback. Washington, I wouldn't trade with. The Texans at 13, maybe. I mean, the Texans need all kinds of help. Maybe you work something out there. The Saints are at 16, and then the Steelers are at 20. I probably wouldn't go any lower than 13. I mean, you start getting really low, now you're risking stuff. So I would say the lowest I would go would be 13 with Houston. And that would be pushing it. I mean, again, if Atlanta came to me with a sweetheart of a deal, maybe I part with the 5th overall pick. But as a whole, I'm not parting with that pick. I would consider moving the 7th round pick, but not the 5th. So that's what I would do. I don't think I would go down to 16. I definitely would not go down to number 20. And those are teams that need quarterbacks. So, even though I think the Saints just signed Andy Dalton, if I'm not mistaken. So the Saints, maybe they might want, I don't know, an offensive tackle now that they have Andy Dalton for a stopgap. But I'm not risking, passing up on an offensive tackle. I want that offensive line fixed once and for all. So that's how I see it. All right. Thank you for that question. Up next, we hear from One Fishy Scientist. How confident are you that Kadarius Toney will be a difference maker for the Giants this season? Look, I always start off optimistic. Clean slate for everybody. I hope that every player who has had a shaky season last year comes back and has a strong season and becomes a difference maker. That said, I got to see what they plan to do. All right. So I have not seen any practices yet. We haven't heard from the coordinators. We spoke to a few players, but that was kind of generic stuff. I'm in the dark right now as to what they plan to do. So for me to say that, I'm 90% certain Kadarius Toney is going to be a difference maker, I can't say that right now. But what I can say is this. Back at the Combine, when I think it was Joe Shane was asked in the group session, is Kadarius Toney somebody you would consider trading? He basically said that Toney is not one of the guys they're going to be looking to move. So that to me tells me that they have plans for this young man. Now, I don't know if this question's being asked because Toney allegedly, or reportedly, I should say, didn't show up for the start of the offseason program. But I wouldn't kill the kid right now because if he did indeed not show up, you don't know if maybe he's got something going on and maybe he called the Giants to say, hey, I'm going to be delayed a few days or whatnot. And it's just weightlifting at this point. If the kid starts missing OTAs, then I would be concerned. So that's kind of where I stand on that. So thanks for that question. All right. Last Twitter question we have, and then we still have email questions. So plenty more still coming up. The Real Rob Z. What is the minimum you would accept to trade the number 5 pick? I definitely would want a number 1 pick in 2023. That goes without saying. I would probably want, well, see, Rob, it kind of depends on how far down they go. But I would say I definitely would want a number 1 pick in 2023. would I want an extra pick in this year's draft? Yeah, I think I would. I think I would want maybe like another fourth rounder, maybe even another third rounder. I would want another top 100 pick in this year's draft, in addition, if I'm trading down. But, as to what is realistically, a realistic expectation, I got to see how far they would trade down in order to answer that question. But thanks. That's a great question. And I'm curious to see what happens as well. All right, that does it for our Twitter questions. So let's jump now into our email questions. Okay, Jackie and Carl, they ask, how likely is it that a team jumps up to draft one of the coveted offensive tackles? It has happened before. Last year with the Eagles made Gettleman look unprepared. All right, Jackie, Carl, I don't think it's likely. All right. I really believe you can't go wrong with any of the top three tackles, Ike Ekwonu, Charles Cross, and Evan Neal. I do think the Giants will get one of those guys. I think Aiden Hutchinson will probably go off the board number one. I have a feeling the Lions are going to go defense. So if that's the case, if the Lions and the let me see, the Lions are going to go defense. So they would, I think the Lions pick what, second? Wait, let me go back and look okay, Jacksonville and Detroit. So I think Jacksonville's going to go defense. I could see them taking Aiden Hutchinson. I think Detroit will go defense. Houston, I'm not so sure what they're going to do because they need help on both sides of the ball. The Jets might go defensive secondary. I think the Giants are going to be fine. I really do. I would be stunned if they don't get one of the coveted offensive tackles at number 5. So I don't think you have to worry about that. All right, Giant fans, welcome back to the Locked On Giants podcast. I am Patricia Traina. We've got a Twitter Thursday going on here, so we are answering some of the email questions that were sent to us at our email address, lockedongiantspodcast@gmail.com, which, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the new graphic I spoke about. And if you're listening to us on any of your favorite podcast platforms, all the information to contact us if you want to participate in our weekly listener mailbag, you can find that in the show notes. So hope we hear from you. Please send your questions in. No question is stupid. And little secret here, I very rarely don't answer a question. I mean, if I don't answer a question, usually it's because it came in too late, or it's a duplicate, or sometimes they land in spam. But I'm trying to make a better effort to check spam. So, all right, before I answer these remaining 4 questions, just a heads up on tomorrow's show. Really excited about tomorrow's show. We're going live, and we are going to have a live mock draft that is going to be done by the one and only Nick Filato. Nick Filato has been writing the draft prospect profiles for me over at Giants Country. He's been doing a great job. Simplified the format, so if you want to get a bird's eye or a quick view of what each prospect has to offer, by the time we're done, I think there's going to be over 100 draft profiles on Giants Country, and they're all organized. You can go and there's a link that you can access all of them. You can also do a search. So Nick is doing a really good job. I asked him to cover basically a lot of the top 100 picks, but he's also been going outside the box, and hope you'll check them out. So he is going to be my guest on Friday. We're going to do a live mock draft show. You are invited to jump in if you are watching on YouTube. We will do the live show on YouTube, and that will kick off at 12 noon Eastern time on YouTube. So hope you'll join us for the mock draft. All right, let's get back to these remaining questions. We're going to start off with one from John W., who wants to know, do the players who are absent from the workout period that started Monday still receive their new playbooks? Yes, John. If the player is going to be delayed by just a day or two, they'll get it when they come in. If the player is delayed for a week or more, depending on what the situation is, the playbook can be FedEx to them. So yes, they do get their playbooks. I think they use iPads now anyway, so I don't think you have to worry about somebody not getting their playbook. It's just a matter, even if they get their playbooks, are they going to dive into them if they're not there? That's another whole nother topic to ask. But anyway, all right, next question came from Mr. Zachary. What were the things that Coach Joe Judge did or didn't do that led to his firing? All right, Mr. Zachary, disclaimer, I obviously was not inside the building other than for the media workroom because of the COVID protocols that were in place. So it was kind of hard to, float around the locker room, get some insight into stuff that was going on. But here's what I can tell you. When things started falling apart on the season, which, we can all agree the Giants' offensive line was a mess. The injuries did not help. The fact that they had to keep restructuring guys to get salary cap, that didn't help. But there were some other things. For example, I had heard that there were some complaints inside the building about Judge's conservative coaching decisions. Some people felt that he should have taken more chances, especially as the season slipped away. The feeling is, what do we have to lose by being a little bit more bold, if you will? There were also whispers, and again, this is unconfirmed. This is just stuff that I heard, that Judge felt that, I guess maybe he didn't always see eye to eye with Dave Gettleman towards the end there, that there was some disagreement with certain players and certain directions that they should have gone in. The other thing I believe was that I remember hearing a former coach had told me that Judge really didn't know how to navigate out of, the situation that he was in. Because remember, he came from Alabama and New England, and those two teams really didn't experience adversity the way that the Giants did last year. So handling the adversity was brand new to Joe Judge. And, if you've had some experience handling it, I know this sounds weird, but sometimes when you're sailing along and you don't have adversity, and then suddenly adversity pops up, you make decisions that in retrospect aren't necessarily the right ones. And I think that's what happened with him. He made some decisions in response to what was going on around him that just weren't the right ones. So if you're asking me what the biggest thing was, I would point to that Judge basically, didn't know how to handle the adversity. His response was, look, let's keep working at it. Let's keep, let's stay on the track that we've outlined. Let's not abandon anything. Let's not change anything up. Sometimes you have to change stuff up, especially if it's not working. And the fact that I don't think he knew any other way to do things, that kind of hurt him. But, here's the thing. Joe's a smart man, and I do think at some point he will get another head coaching opportunity, whether it's in the NFL or at the college level. And I think he will have learned from what happened with the Giants, and he will become a very good head coach. I think, he did a lot of things right as a head coach that I don't think a lot of people give him credit for, but not handling adversity was probably the number one thing that helped do him in. So hope that answers your question. All right, Bob H. writes, I'm wondering if the situation arose, would you take both Evan Neal and Ikam Ekwonu? I'd do it in a heartbeat and worry about the cap ramifications later. Bob, my friend, I'm taking an offensive tackle and a defensive player. That's what I would do. I would not double dip for the offensive tackles. Because, all right, let me ask you something. You're probably thinking, okay, I'll move one of the guys inside to guard. All right, because, you're not going to bench Andrew Thomas, obviously. I would hope that's not what you're planning to do. So let me ask you this. wouldn't you be better off knowing that this is a deep class of interior offensive linemen? Wouldn't you be better off getting one of these interior offensive linemen on day 2 or day 3 rather than drafting an offensive tackle and moving him inside the guard? I mean, to me, that doesn't make sense. And I'm not even talking about the salary cap ramifications, which to me are not a big deal right now. All right, because regardless if it's if you draft 2 offensive tackles or you draft a offensive tackle and a cornerback or a cornerback and a defensive end, you're still paying the same amount depending on where they're slotted. So salary cap, we could throw that argument out. I'm taking, depending on how the board falls, if it's my call, I'm taking offensive tackle, defensive player. If I don't trade that seventh overall pick away to pick up more draft picks, that's what I'm doing. So, thanks for your question. All right, one more. We have from Andrew S., who writes, say we get either Neal or Ekwonu at 5, Sauce, Hamilton, and Thibodeau are there at 7. Who do you take? Also, would you entertain the idea of bringing Landon Collins back if he were to accept the VSB, veteran salary benefit? I think you have VBS up there. Benefit, it's VSV. Okay. Let me answer your first question there, Andrew. I would probably take Thibodeau at 7. I think I want the pass rusher. I want the Batman pass rusher. I think Sauce and Hamilton, they're very good players, but I think I can get a cornerback on day 2 and possibly a safety on day 3. But again, I got to see how the board falls on day 2 and day 3. I will be doing another mock draft, by the way. I mentioned Nick's going to be doing a live mock draft on the show. At some point, I'm going to do a mock draft, a full 6th round as it is now, because the Giants don't have a 7th round pick, but I will be doing my own mock draft for you guys. So that's what I would do at 7. Now, as for Landon Collins, no, I love Landon Collins. He was always one of my guys, but I'm not bringing him back at this point. Not even on a veteran salary benefit deal, which I don't know that he would even take. I'm not bringing him back. I don't understand why every time a former Giant player becomes available, fans want to bring him back. There was a reason why they moved on from him in the first place. Very rarely can you bring a guy back or make a case to bring a guy back that you moved on from. And I don't think this is one that, even though it's new management, new coaching staff, I don't think this is one that they would double back and say, oh, let's bring him back for a year. I get where you're going with this, but no, I don't see it happening. All right, Giant fans, that is going to do it for today's LockedOn Giants podcast. Thank you, everybody, for submitting your questions. Those of you who saw the show on YouTube, let me know what you thought of the new graphics. If you like them, if you want me to go back to the old way of doing stuff, I found these and I figured let me try them out and see how they work out. So again, don't forget, tomorrow at noon Eastern, Nick Filato joins me for a live show. We're going to do a live mock draft, and I'm going to try and put the simulator on the screen so you could follow along and see who the picks are. I'm going to put Nick on the hot seat, see who he picks. And you guys on YouTube, if you join the show on YouTube, you'll be able to join the chat. Along the way, maybe we'll get a question, some of your questions in as they pop up. Should be a fun time if everything comes together the way I'm hoping it will. So I hope you will join us. And those of you who normally listen to us on the podcast platforms, we will put the audio up, and you will, of course, also be able to go back and look at the video if you want to, the video replay if you're at home and you want to go to YouTube. But rest assured, you will get it one way or another. It will be available after we finish the broadcast. So I hope you'll check it out. So until then, everybody, have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.